You're tuned in to the 3 Pixels podcast. This episode is produced by Ben Ridley. Hello and welcome back to the 3 Pixels podcast. I'm Ben, and no, you're not tuned in to the wrong episode by mistake. I'm actually doing a movie episode this time. And as most of you know by now, Avengers End Game is one of the biggest films of the year, maybe even one of the biggest films of our generation, and it's worthy of a conversation. So we couldn't just avoid it and not talk about it. And that's exactly what I did. With the help of my fiancée, we got on the phone and had a conversation about our thoughts, breaking down Avengers End Game. Now, being a phone conversation, the quality isn't as high as our usual production levels, but it was such a good conversation that I had to hit record and share it with you guys. Here it is. Oh, quickly, by the way, there will be spoilers. I hope you figured that out because we are talking about the film in detail. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, maybe don't listen any further than this. Seriously, there will be spoilers. Okay, now I've said that. Over to you, Ben of the past.
If we do this, we'd be going in short-handed.
Yeah, you mean because he killed all our friends?
We owe this to everyone who's not in this room to try.
It's not about how much we lost. It's about how much we have left. We're the Avengers. We gotta finish this. You trust me? I do. You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
Endgame as a movie obviously kicks off the back of Infinity War, and I think personally what they did was quite clever in terms of they took lots of different scenarios, kind of what people were theorizing would happen, and they just did them all. Mm-hmm. Like they straight within the first few minutes, they did the whole let's go and get Thanos, let's kill him, take the glove, and try and save everything. They just did that. It's like almost they just pushed that out of the way straight away, and it's like, right, well, that's not going to work. We've tried it. Now, and then I felt like the real movie started after that, because it was like 5 years later. Everyone's coming to grips with people not being around and what's the effect of that on the characters and the world and everything like that. And I think that's when the movie really started. It was very funny to see all the different characters later on, like to see how they were developed and how they managed with that. Although I really want to talk about, spend a minute talking about this, because the way they dealt with Thor was very, very different. Because previously, Marvel have done a very good job of dealing with post-traumatic stress with Iron Man, because after what happened in Avengers 1, he felt guilty for not having protected the world and left them open to something like this to happen. And that's what kicked off the whole Civil War thing. That was very much a problem that Stark had to deal with. And I think that was dealt with very well. Like he felt like he should be the strong guy and he should be saving the world, but yet he had these moments where he was just like, I don't know what's happening to me. And there's a really great moment when he's in the suit and he's like trying to ask Jarvis, like, what's wrong with me? You know, is my heart okay? Is everything all right? And it's like, no, you're just having a breakdown. You're having an anxiety attack. You know, you're fine, but you're having an anxiety attack. And I felt they dealt with that really well. And what happened in Iron Man 3 with the kids, which I'll talk about the kid actually in a minute later on. But I think they dealt with it really well. But then when it came to Thor in this movie, they took it a completely different way, and they almost made it a bit of a joke. They turned this whole post-traumatic stress disorder into a joke. And you can't have it both ways. You can't deal with it one way in one set of movies and then completely because then you're kind of not really setting a precedent for how this kind of illness or this kind of effect on characters is played out, you know?
Yeah, I feel like they were trying to go with the upbeat, almost like a millennial kind of a vibe that Thor has in general, and then trying to twist that into someone who is dealing with with some serious issues, but it just kind of didn't come out very well.
Yeah.
And he actually, in my opinion, he was really annoying throughout the entire movie.
He was a little bit annoying, yeah. I mean, he got a lot of laughs in my movie theater. Like every time you could see his stomach, everyone just broke up laughing, like every time, and that kind of changed the mood of how we thought about his character. He was more the butt of the joke rather than feeling sorry for him, I think, and that caused a lot of problems. And also, so when he was having his biggest breakdown on his home planet, he'd just seen his mother. The way they reacted with it was like, oh, we'll get the raccoon to slap him on the face and tell him to snap out of it, because that's how we deal with post-traumatic stress. Like, what? No. Like, you can't have it both ways. So,
that was uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah. But on the other hand, seeing him see his mother, and that scene was great. I enjoyed that scene a lot. And I think the movie did a great job of touching on things that had happened or been referenced to across the 11 years. I think there were some really nice moments throughout the whole film, whether it was, going back to the early days of Cap, seeing Tony Stark meet his dad. That was really nice. Thor being able to go back and see Asgard again. Like, I think there was lots of really nice moments in there and seeing them go back to the first Avengers movie. They look so young in that movie. When I remember seeing them, they look so young in comparison to how they look now. I didn't realize. It really makes you feel like that was a long time ago in comparison. Everyone's really done good, but it was nice to take those moments, because it did feel then that this was a movie for the fans. Like they were going back and there's a lot of like reminiscing and kind of finishing things off or completing things.
I think that it was really nice that they kind of went back to the original Avengers crew and just focused on them. Yeah. On the other hand, it really brought to light how flat some of the characters are. There's one in particular that I think of when I say that, and that is Black Widow. And just how, like, maybe this is just me, but can you even think of a single adjective to describe the Black Widow's personality? Like, I just can't. And oh God. And when the whole like back and forth between her and Hawkeye, when they're trying to like decide who sacrifices themselves, I just sat there feeling like I should care about this, and yet
honestly, the character I care about the least actually is Hawkeye. I kind of wanted him to just go.
Well,
when he was running for, I was like, okay, great. I think that was the best decision here. I know he's got a family. I know it's really bad of me, and I'm sorry. The way he kind of reacted to the whole thing with his family disappearing kind of just made me feel really cold about him. His actions weren't really, I don't think, weren't justified. Like him going, like killing people, like being an assassin doesn't really make sense to me.
I mean, that whole thing just seemed so contrived, and like, okay, so Dark Hawkeye equals Batman? Like, what is that?
Why would he go to Asia? Why would he suddenly like be like a contract?
Yeah,
it just didn't make sense.
How does losing his family turn him into some kind of a vigilante justice kind of a figure where he's just running around? My understanding was that he was like traveling the world, like killing bad guys.
I maybe took it the other way. I thought he was, well, not completely the other way, but I thought he was kind of like a contract, anyone for hire type person.
Honestly, that whole plot line was so confusing. Either way.
I mean, there's a lot going on in the movie, so it's really hard to keep track of it. And I've had to remind myself of a lot of things that I forgot about. On the flip side to that, one of my favorite character changes, and I can't believe it hasn't been seen, but it's kind of been building up to this, is just the Hulk in this movie is the best character for me, because he does it so well. He does the really nice, charming guy, and that moment in the diner was great, and it brought so many smiles, and he was the real comic relief in the movie, I felt like.
Yeah, which is really surprising given his story arc.
Yeah, I thought it worked so well. I thought it really worked so well. It was like everyone else is sad for once. Everyone else is a bit angry and like want to fix it, but he's like having a great time anyway. And
Well, I think that really goes to show like how dramatic and angsty the rest of the movie is, that they have to take the Hulk
yeah,
and make him into a comedic
Yeah.
relief character.
yeah.
I mean, that's really a sign.
Which must mean that they're gonna continue to include him in some way in the movies going forward. I think he still has.
Oh yeah, I see him being a recurring character. Obviously, Captain Marvel and Spider-Man.
Captain Marvel had a lesser place in the movie than I thought. I thought they were going to use her to answer all the problems, but actually, she buggered off for most of the movie.
Yeah, I was surprised about that too. But I think that that goes into a problem that I've discussed with you before in introducing Captain Marvel, is that she's too overpowered.
Yeah.
And so when you play that card, you lose all the stakes in the movie.
Well, that's why they decided to play the the card of that she can't be everywhere doing everything. So it's not like she's there all the time at every battle. She can only just turn up when she's really needed to. So that would be interesting to see how that plays up. From that, I kind of gather that she won't be part of the new Avengers type, because we're trying to figure out who's going to continue on. Which quickly, we were just talking about Black Widow. I just want to put a mention in that I didn't think, and one of the reasons why I was like, oh, Hawkeye, yeah, that makes sense, was that she has a movie coming out. Like,
does she really?
For another movie, yeah. So which must lead that it's going to be a prequel of some sort. Which to be fair, there's been a lot of references of the different movies to points in her life and different backstories, but there's never really been explained. She'd never really had a backstory movie. So
Budapest.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But I think so. It looks like it's going to be some sort of prequel movie because it's already confirmed that they're doing that. So that'll be interesting. I mean, obviously we knew about some things. We knew that Spider-Man's got to be around because he's got a movie. I mean, the trailer dropped just after the final movie came out. The last movie came out, so we kind of knew that. I mean, we knew that anyway. He's he's a new character, and we knew that people like Black Panther are still going to be around because they've only just introduced them. We knew Captain Marvel is going to be around, and we had a feeling that people like Iron Man probably wouldn't make it, but it's still, to me, I've been a big follower of Iron Man anyway, but him and Captain America was still a sad moment. It was still a little bit rough,
Actually, I thought Captain America, that was like the perfect happy ending for him.
It was, but it was still sad because, like, for me, it was.
I did not feel sad at all. I thought it was so beautiful and touching and like happy that he got to live his life that he always wanted to without the burden of being a superhero.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was
I still want to know what he did with Thor's hammer, though, because he went away with Thor's hammer near the end of the movie.
Did he?
The shield.
I missed that.
The stones. So
yeah,
I feel like he's just left it somewhere because he has, and you see him at the end on the bench, he has the shield and he passes it on to the Captain America. But the hammer. But which brings
maybe he kept it as a knick-knack.
Yeah.
it's on his mantle.
Maybe like in one of the other movies we'll stumble across it somehow. Like it'll be in some sort of lockup or something we'll find when he passes away or something. I don't know. But talking about Captain America, I think he had two of my favorite moments in the movie. He had one I knew was going to happen because it was teased. Was Captain America meeting Captain America. I just loved that moment. When he's like, when the younger Captain America's like, I could go all day, and he's like, yep, I know. Like that was great, and the whole America's ass thing, just funny. I loved it. And also, the other favorite thing was when you had the showdown with Thor and Iron Man and Captain America, when suddenly you see Thor's hammer moving, you're like, okay, what's going on? And then it goes to Captain America. I honestly, I was so happy that I geeked out completely over that. Because
I legitimately thought that was going to be Captain Marvel standing there and that was going to be her entrance. But I mean, it makes sense though, because like it's all about like who's worthy to wield it. And like Captain America is supposed to, I don't know. He seems like he stands for like morality and stuff. So
and he went on a rampage with that thing. Between that and the shield, like he was just bouncing one after the other. Like he did some real damage. Like that was a really enjoyable moment. That was a kick-ass moment.
I thought it was very interesting that in giving Captain America Thor's hammer, they also gave him Thor's lightning powers. That surprised me because I thought that like the lightning came from Thor himself and not necessarily his weapon.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not like the hugest Marvel super fan, so I don't know all of the little details.
So talking about the kind of fight near the end, when Thanos' army came out, I thought, okay, wow, all right, this is pretty intense. This is a lot of people. We're pretty screwed in this. But then when seeing the time portals open up and seeing fan favorite characters from all over different series, all down to the little characters, was just awesome. Like it brought such a smile to my face seeing everyone.
Yeah.
It was the first time in a long time that everyone came together and started working together, because it felt like, especially in the last battle we saw, which was in Infinity War, that since Civil War happened, everyone was a little split. And that's kind of, looking back, what probably led to the failure of Infinity War in terms of the mission for the Avengers, was that they were fighting on different battles. They weren't fighting together. They'd split up. They were fighting different places, different wars. But this time, everyone was together. Everyone was doing the same thing. Everyone might not exactly know what was going on, which kind of came a little bit apparent. But they all knew that they had to fight to save themselves against Thanos. And it was interesting to see how they worked with the characters coming back to life who had been wiped off, because as Spider-Man described it to Stark, is he acted like he didn't even remember passing out. He just woke back up and he was gone, like, and then Stark was gone. Yeah. So for them, that they never remember passing away. They just remember just waking up and this happened. So that was quite interesting to see that. But yeah, it was quite apparent that like not everyone knew he was going, including like Captain Marvel, who just arrived, and then like I could see that she knew kind of what to do. But I'm from what I gathered watching the film, I don't think the intention was for her to fly straight through the time travel portal and destroy it without a suit or anything. So I was like, oh, that's the goal. Let's fly straight through that and destroy that. Yeah, it was just incredible to see all that. That was one of the biggest set pieces in a Marvel film for sure, having all those characters in one. And it felt like I was watching like some sort of big like football match or something, because everyone was like trying to get on top of the ball, but in this case it's the gauntlet, and trying to pass it, and the other team like getting close, and then they're getting surrounded, and someone else comes along and says, I've got it, and they grab it, and then they fly off. I do want to see your thoughts on the whole time travel aspect of it and the way the movie dealt with that. It was funny because they made references to other time travel. They made it really very clear that they know they're not reinventing time travel movies. Yeah. And they did actually address some glaring problems themselves in the movie by explaining it. Bruce Banner explained that the way time travel actually works in the Marvel universe is that once when you go back somewhere and change something, that's part of the future. That's not the past, like some movies. So it's just like, yeah, you can go back to the past and change it, but then that's now another offshoot of the future. Kind of also how Doc Brown explains time travel in Back to the Future 2 on the chalkboard when Marty's stuck in the past, is that the minute you do that, that's a new reality. Then that's a new strand from that future. You can't get back to the old past. That this is now the future. So they did that, and there were some other like little bits that then they kind of just didn't explain, but they kind of left it as we know it's a little bit dodgy, but hey, just forgive us. And I think people mostly will forgive.
I think that the only part that like really covered their asses is that they had Captain America go back and put the Infinity Stones where they belong. I mean, I think that that is kind of what is allowing me to suspend my disbelief. If they hadn't done that, then I mean, like, I wouldn't feel as comfortable with their version of time travel.
I think, you know, as far as time travel goes, it's a difficult writing tool because you start opening time travel and it's like, oh, I could just go back and change everything. That's something that future writers are going to have to be really careful of, is because now that's something part of the Marvel universe. If there's a time travel machine now, and it exists and still here. And so, you know, I assume that they're not just going to use it as let's just go back in time and fix things. But I wouldn't be too surprised if there's some cameos of Marvel characters that have passed away or not around anymore that we see in some movies. There may be some time traveling aspects of it, possibly. I don't know. I can possibly see the possible that happening, but I thought that like it was quite a task to send him on his own with all the stones to get them all back in the right place. That one of the most wanted resources in the universe. And yeah, they sent him on his own, like, to put them all back in the right place. So like, I thought that was a bit trusting, really, you know, not but you know, a bit of a risk.
I mean,
But
while
sure.
we're talking about Captain America and time travel, as soon as they started in on it, like, I immediately thought of like Captain America going back and doing exactly what he did. To be honest, that seemed like foreshadowing to me when they started in on
him going back
the time travel.
Going back to his wife.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, the nice thing of it was that he said he'd go back to dance with her, and that's what he did in the end. So he stuck to his word as he went back and danced with her.
Oh my God, you're totally right. That makes it even like that adds like another level of sentimentality. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's so much we can talk about in this movie. It's a 3-hour movie. You know, we could break it down. We could talk about every aspect of it. But personally, for me as a whole, I came out feeling fulfilled. I felt like it did everything it needed to do. It wrapped it up really nicely, considering how much of a task it was to do this movie. You know, what decisions had to be made, which way they were going to take it. It was a hard movie because you not only you having to take what happens in Infinity War and then progress that story and bring that to an end and bring this whole chapter to an end. You're also going to have to make a movie that is more ambitious and is better in respect to the part one, because, you know, part one did very well. It's sold like crazy. So there's pressure of making part two better because it has to be better, you know, it has to feel better. And I think it did feel better. I prefer part two to part one as a movie.
Yeah, me too.
I had far more enjoyable moments. And as a whole, like, I think it had some really nice, lovely moments. It had some touching moments. It had some of the best fighting scenes that we've seen so far. And I think it made, in most part, the right decisions for the right people. I mean, you could sit here arguing this or this could happen. You know, and over the finer details, but no one's ever going to be really happy. Some decisions have to be made. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen now moving forward. And I have to say, I didn't predict the majority of things that are going to happen. I didn't think the movie was going to play out like this. So it completely surprised me in how it played out.
Well, I really thought it was going to be like Thanos is dead and gone by the like end of the first hour, you know, and then like the rest of the movie was just going to be them getting their friends back, which, I mean, like, I guess that is what happened, but like Thanos came back via the time travel thing.
Yeah, it took a few
so that was
surprising.
surprising.
Yeah, it took a few twists and turns along the way, and like him being able to see what was going to happen in the future, and then using what, you know, the Avengers used to try and get the time stones, you know, the time machine, you know, to use that to get back into this new alternate future was incredibly creative. And, you know, because you thought that when the Hulk, you know, clicked his fingers, you know, that was kind of like, oh, that's it, now we've saved everyone, that's great. And then like immediately that happens, the whole of the Avengers hideout just gets completely like smashed to smithereens. And
Oh
then
my gosh. Okay, that part actually bugged me because you see this giant spaceship come in and the entire building is in ruins, right? Like boulders all the way down to pebbles. And then freaking everybody is still alive. Oh my God, that bugged me so much. Even freaking Hawkeye, who like didn't have a helmet on, didn't have, like, he doesn't have any like protection superpowers or anything like that.
They did lock down the area they were in. They put the big metal shutters in the roof and stuff.
But they had just opened them, hadn't they?
Oh yeah, you're right. No, you are right. Because
That bugged me so much.
Hawkeye actually, was it Hawkeye that actually walked out and saw the birds and stuff? The birds or something.
Yeah.
I think it was him.
Wait, no.
No, he was on the phone. It was
yeah. Yeah, it was Ant-Man that saw the birds. Okay, you can make an argument. Like, obviously the Hulk would survive that kind of a thing. You can make an argument that Ant-Man would survive that. You could even say that, like, Rocket could, I don't know, curl up into a ball and just get lucky. But, like, how did Hawkeye not die from that? It literally, one of them landed right in front of him. And I just thought, okay, Hawkeye's incinerated. Like, that's end of his storyline. But no, I really feel like he should have died at that point. I'm sorry.
I understand. I didn't think it at the time, but yeah, looking back, I can exactly see where you're coming from. When Thanos was going to click his fingers for the second time, I generally was like, oh crap. And then there was the whole switch that, you know, that Iron Man, and it was actually the perfect way for him to go as a character. I think that was a really smart way because he did his final thing. Because, like, you know, Iron Man has been this character that, you know, he's always been plagued by his desire to save the day. You know, he's always felt like he's not been able to do enough to save everyone, and if he can't save everyone, he feels guilty and stuff like that. So even when he tries to settle down and have a kid, he still ultimately he can't rest because things aren't right. So for him to say, and you know, Pepper says to him, doesn't say to him, "I love you," doesn't say anything romantic, says to you, you know, like, you know, you can rest now.
We'll be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that really signifies his storyline, really, and it was the perfect way for him to go.
Well, I have a couple of thoughts. Firstly, I don't think that it was the perfect way for his storyline to end. Okay. I think that it was better than just having him, like, I don't know, die on the battlefield with like some minor villain or something like that. But it wasn't like the best, because I think that for him, like, a happy ending would have been like if he could maybe go back to that alternate universe or whatever that was, where he and Pepper and their daughter, whose name I've forgotten, live in that house on the lake, and like that's just like their little thing. Or maybe like Doctor Strange could have sent him into a pocket universe where that's just like the reality is like a tiny itty bitty, like just this lake thing, and like that's just where he lives forever.
I don't think it's possible for him to just die of old age like most people, because I mean, like, you know, like I think he tries several times to like settle down in a way, or just to not get involved. But I just think his nature is that he will always get involved. That he will always find some way, because he's always still thinking up new ways of creating things. You know, that's why, you know, he ended up creating the time machine in the first place, is just because like something ticked away in his mind. He was too curious for his own good. So people normally like that. That's probably the way they're gonna go. Is they're gonna go because, you know, because their curiosity. Or
well, I don't know, because he was totally fine until somebody came and knocked on his door. Like, he was just hanging out doing his thing. And then once somebody came and asked him for help, then he couldn't help it. He couldn't like stop himself. But I think before then, if nobody like interferes, he could be totally fine just with his little family.
So I heard online someone making a joke about the Avengers like not being able to afford to like stay anywhere anymore, so they end up like sleeping on Doctor Strange's couch or something. He has like a headquarters.
That sounds like a Marvel end credit scene.
Yeah, definitely. Which there was none of in the movie.
Yeah,
Which is fine. Like, I mean, it makes sense because it's the bookend. You want to mark it as like the end of that chapter, the end of that sequence.
I can see what they were trying to do there, but obviously it isn't truly the end because
yeah, but the whole point is that it's the end of this part of the Marvel like story.
Yeah, but they've got so much crossover in like the old gen versus the theoretical new gen. Like it isn't like, oh, the Avengers are dead now, let's bring in the new characters. No, they brought in the new characters like way long ago, and they're going to continue on. So it isn't
part of the crossover
really
period,
like
basically.
ending.
It was part of the crossover period, and I don't know. I agreed that was the right thing to do because it would have felt a little bit in bad taste to be like you know, because it was like taking a moment to just reflect on the last 11 years rather than, you know, putting too much attention to what the next thing is. You know what I mean? I understand what you're saying, but it kind of fitted the movie, right? Because the whole movie was kind of, you know, bringing to close this story. Because the story with Thanos was teased early on in this story many movies ago, and this has been leading up to this, and this is the finished bit of this. So it's like we're just focusing on this.
Speaking of in bad taste, they showed Tony Stark's funeral, but not Black Widow's, even though they both made the largest sacrifice. And she even did it before he did, so she should have had a funeral before he had a funeral, even though they didn't have like her body. I was surprised that they didn't have like some kind of a like, even like, I don't know, it sounds morbid, like a joint funeral or like just something honoring her, or like they could have shown like gravestones set side by side at his funeral or something like that. Just like anything. Literally, it was like she dies, they're all upset about it, and then somebody says like, oh, we got to make it worth it. I think that was the Hulk. And then literally it's like the Black Widow never existed. She's just out.
Can you summarize your thoughts?
Okay. 8 out of 10. Good, could have been better. Amazing, like visuals. Not that great of like dialogue. Really unimpressed by the dialogue. But I'm hopeful for the next steps that Marvel makes after this.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can agree with you on the majority of that. I think quite easily. The T's were crossed, the I's were dotted in a lot of senses. You know, the two core characters. Well, really, the three core characters that have really driven the series of movies so far. You know, your Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America. They've all been kind of put to bed in some way, in some respect. I know Thor's out there now traveling the Guardians of the Galaxy. That's going to be super fun, but that's different. He stepped down from being the leader. He's now, you know, taking a back seat, and the focus is off him. You've got, you know, Captain America being able to live the life the way he always intended it to be, great. And obviously, you got Stark, who passed away. So like those are the three leaders. So, you know, they wrapped up those, and now, you know, it's making the way for the new generation. You know, it's leaving space now for the next generation to take lead, and I'm very excited for whatever that brings. I'm already extremely looking forward to the new Spider-Man Away from Home. It's going to be based in Europe, which is fantastic, and it looks amazing. I loved Spider-Man. I love Tom. I think he's fantastic, and I'm excited. I'd love to know what you guys listening think of the movie. Don't forget, you can tweet us, email us, whatever you want to do. Just get in touch, and I'd love to know what you think. So, yeah, thank you very much for talking with me, Darby.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. And, subscribe, and all that good stuff. I'll speak to you guys soon.
You've been listening to the 3 Pixels podcast with Alan Taylor, Martin Gregory, and me, Ben Ridley. Music provided by Epidemic Sound. With that, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Good night.